We've taken a look at Dragon, and now it is time to take a look at his counterpart, Darkus Municus. Hey everyone, it's the Detective back again with episode 2 of the BakuTech Recap series on my channel. And I'm very excited for today's video because we get to take a look at Destroy or Death Municus. He does go by 2 names. You might hear Destroy, you might hear Death. I'll be saying Destroy since I like that name more. But I'm really excited for this episode because I honestly love all of the Municus evolutions throughout the BakuTech series, actually more so than the Dragon evolutions. Of course, we talked about Flare Dragon in the last video. I went over the different things that he can do, and I also explained some of his faults, being, the loose cross pieces, which I can see are even starting to fall off here. And today's video hopefully will be a little bit shorter since I'm not going to have to spend as much time just talking about the convert system, talking about when this Bakugan came out. I do believe that they were released at the same time, and the release date of these was somewhere around 2011 in Japan. So yeah, I'm really excited to jump right in. Let's move Dragon aside and take a look at Municus. So, starting with the ball form, you can already see that despite being a Darkus Bakugan, the color scheme differs greatly from the standard Darkus color scheme that had been established in the first few series. Of course, the standard Darkus colors being purple, black, and a little bit of silver, and maybe a little bit of red. But, as you can see, this Bakugan, we have black, red, and yellow. It was definitely a new color scheme, but it looks very cool, and if you're just kind of seeing BakuTech for the first time with this series here on my channel, let me just tell you, the colors towards the end of the series, it didn't even matter. Like, you could have Bakugan which were blue and they would be like Subterra. You could have Bakugan that were yellow and they'd be Chaos. There were so many different colors that towards the end of the series, like, the only thing that actually mattered was the actual attribute symbol on the Bakugan. You can see it's Darkus, and honestly, I will be honest, I love the color scheme. The red and the yellow looks really nice, and eventually, Municus' color scheme actually became blue, white, and red and gold, which was honestly super cool. Anyway, you can see the feet right here are kind of shaking around, and the reason for that is because these are the soul pieces, and they are actually made out of solid metal, very much similarly to the special attack Bakugan, such as this Delta Dragonoid here. I just keep him on the side of my desk. It's the same type of metal. It's not that die-cast metal that was featured with Mectanium Surge. This is full-on hard metal, and it will make a difference when you roll him. So, of course, we talked about Dragon and how his gimmick was that he could do the critical KOs due to the metal pieces on his arms. With Municus, however, the strategy wasn't critical KOs at all. Rather, it was the curve shot. Of course, the curve shot is when you go kind of like this, and you shoot the Bakugan like so, and it launches off. But due to the metal feet being on the bottom side of Municus, if you launch him at an angle, he's going to curve. And you can see how he kind of came and did a little bit of a spin. And this is just a very limited studio space. And there's actually, it's not actually an even texture all around. You can't see under the playmat, but there's actually, like, other stuff under here. If you were on an actual, like, Bakugan arena or field, and you did the curve shot, it would be far more effective than what I just demonstrated. Nonetheless, in order to open this guy up, let's actually do some curve shots so you can just see how he works. So here is Municus, and, well, his feet are unfolded out, so he's just kind of face planting into the ground. I'll fix that by adding a card. And you could see from those shots one of the unfortunate aspects of the original Municus release, and that's that occasionally the wings will actually get stuck on the horns just because the springs have lost a bit of power over time, and as such, he will get stuck. Technically, it still counts as, standing on the card. A Bakugan doesn't even need to open to be on the card, it just needs to be magnetized onto it. But it's just an unfortunate thing, this is the original release Municus, just like how this Dragon here is the original release Dragon. And he was re-released multiple times throughout the series, and of course, those will work better. He got re-released in other colors, and he also got re-released just this standard Darkus version, just in, just a new version. So that is one of the cons of this Bakugan, and generally BakuTech in general, since with the critical KOs and with all the different curve shots that you could do, just demonstrated between just the 2 first BakuTech, you could even just assume, you know, what other crazy gimmicks the later ones would have, and unfortunately that does lead to some of them getting worn out rather easily if they are used in extreme battles. Of course, you know, even just when these two first BakuTech released, if you had Dragown and your opponent had Municus and you're rolling against each other and hitting into the Bakugan, then of course after time it's going to get worn down, and it's just a fact of life, and it's pretty unfortunate. However, if you do get one of these sealed in the box, I do think that it won't get jammed, but I'm sure that other people out there who have more Municus variations than I do can definitely leave a comment and talk about whether if it gets jammed or not. Anyway, let's actually take a look at the design, because this was a super duper cool Bakugan. So there are 3 manual parts. We got the horns here, which this is the farthest they go, but kind of like Dragown, you can leave them back if you want. In the show, they are all folded out. And then, of course, the metal feet, which sadly, like Dragown, have gotten a little bit loose. Dragown doesn't have the metal feet, but you can even see, there it is, the metal cross, just very loose. Luckily, the feet do not fall off. However, they do kind of tend to shake around a little bit. They do look very nice. And again, like Dragown, you do have the stickers on the metal, which is also quite unfortunate. He's really, really cool. He's like this alien sort of design. Lots of people look at him and they see these things and I think that those are the arms, but no. The arms are way back there, like hanging above the head. Really cool. I've seen some fan art of this guy where he's kind of portrayed as like an alien, like a hunchback sort of alien with long legs and this like really forward shifted head. It's really, really cool. I definitely recommend you go on Google perhaps and just search up BakuTech fan art, because there is some really, really cool fan art of people, you know, drawing the BakuTech represented as if they were in the actual Bakugan anime. And it does look very, very cool. So, just a very, very wacky design. Basically what happened earlier is that these little parts here kind of go around the horns in the ball form. But occasionally, since the spring is a little bit weak here, you can just see how weak that is. The wings don't fold outward, and this piece doesn't push up enough that they will get disconnected. You can see mine is 500 Gs. My Flare Dragown was actually 520. I'm pretty sure that there were 3 versions of this, the 500, 520, and 540. But I'm not 100% sure on that. Again, if you guys have more BakuTech than I do, or if you have a Municus like this, but with a different G-Power, definitely leave a comment down below, since I'm definitely open to learning new things. So unfortunately, I was only able to find 2 cards that are actually relating to Destroy Munikis. So as such, these are the only 2 that I'm showing. This one here, Survival Match, I actually showed in the last video because it shows both Dragown and Municus right there. The art on these cards is fantastic. And also, the reason why I mentioned looking up fan art earlier is because the cards just showed the straight up Bakugan. Like, they just showed kind of very stylized versions of the toys. They didn't show any monster forms or anything of this sort. Someone in the Flare Dragown video actually commented the effect of this. I think it was Baku Blitz, so thank you so much for that, because I wasn't able to find the translation of this. And here is the Destroy Munikis card. The art on this is just really, really cool looking. I love the colors on it. And I'm just going to assume that the effect just gives Destroy Munikis double gate bonus. So if you land on this, you get 120. But, of course, if it's Destroy Munikis, you get 240, which means that he's actually going to go up to 740 G-Power, which is actually quite high. And, you know, these cards are really cool. It's kind of unfortunate I wasn't able to find any ability cards. I'm sure if you buy a sealed copy of Destroy Munikis, you would be able to get some ability cards. However, I got all my BakuTech used, so whichever gate cards came with them are the ones that I got. So, in my review of Dragown, I touched on the convert system, which was a very, very, very awesome system that was premiered with these 2 Bakugan. Of course, we have Dragown here with the metal cross parts and the plastic soul parts, and then Municus with the plastic cross parts in the metal soul parts. So, without further ado, let's do a bit of mixing and matching, and let's take a look at some really cool combinations. So here we have a full metal Flare Dragown, and oh my gosh, this actually looks fantastic. I do think that the sticker placement on Municus was done on purpose, because as you can see, the stickers have red and yellow, and those are some of the colors featured on Dragown. I can't really say the same about Municus though, because when you put the plastic feet on from Dragown, this kind of just becomes like a useless Bakugan since there's no spin on it. You know, of course you can still do curve shots, but it's not going to have that really nice round curve that will be formed with the metal parts on it. And additionally, the white is kind of jarring because the only other white on the Bakugan is just the Darkest logo and the G-Power. So I've swapped the parts totally around, and we have a full metal Municus and a full plastic Dragon. And unfortunately, there was no limited edition version of Municus that was actually released with both metal crosses and metal soles. And I think that the reason for that was done on purpose, because when you give the cross and soul parts to Dragon, his ability to do a successful critical KO will be a little bit higher, since the Bakugan is far heavier, and since there's the crosses and the souls, he's not really going to be curving in one direction or another. But with Municus, since the actual main function of him is to do those curve shots, when you add the crosses on, the weight on the bottom of the Bakugan is kind of counterbalanced just a little bit. And if you actually try to do a curve shot with this, it's actually not going to work to the same extremity as it would with a standard Municus. One thing you could do, though, is you could put one metal cross on and leave one as plastic, and then it would naturally curve to one side since you have both metal soles, but only one metal cross. This could also be done with Dragon potentially if you wanted him to do a curve shot, because you could just put the metal soles on for a curve kind of like Municus here, or for a more impactful curve, you could just do plastic, plastic, metal, metal, and if you actually work with it a bit, it's really, really fun to test these out and just experiment on, just a floor with some gate cards. Before we move on to the conclusion, I just want to show something off really, really cool. In the review of Dragon, at the very end of the video, I showed off an extremely, extremely rare variant of that Bakugan that I have in my collection. Let's bring up the gate card here. This BakuTech is honestly one of my favorites in my collection. I like to call this the pink version of Destroy Munikis, but essentially what it is it's a reversed color version of Municus, and instead of yellow, he has gold. It just looks absolutely stunning, and this was released towards the end of the BakuTech line. Of course, like the Dragon variant that I showed in that video, these BakuTech got re-released very, very often throughout the line. So let's actually pop this open, and you can see right there that not only is this spring just a little bit stronger, you can see it's almost getting held up there, but when it opened without problems. So it's very, very cool that, as they got re-released, the actual BakuTech in this line continued to improve in quality. Now, unfortunately, the legs on this guy are just a solid plastic, so it's just a plastic version of this leg, and this detailing here is painted rather than a sticker. So that's one thing to note. This version of Municus is pretty much inferior to this version of Municus, even though it looks infinitely cooler. But you could always just take the metal soles on this and put it on this one and then use this one. I've actually been looking for this for, I think a little over a year now, and I was able to find one at a good price, and I purchased it, and it was worth every penny. The G-Power on this is 600 G-Power, so yeah, 100 G-Power increase, and this was released probably a year or two after this one. Anyway, though, let's move on to my final thoughts. So, guys, that was my review, BakuTech Recap, Episode 2 of Destroy Munikis. And, well, I will be totally honest, I can't really recommend either Destroy Munikis or Flare Dragon to anyone who is just looking for a quote-unquote competitive BakuTech. Because as I mentioned multiple times in both this video and the other video with Dragon, both of these Bakugan kind of got evolutions down the line. And especially since BakuTech was a game which focused on the actual Bakugan being useful with their gimmicks, the future versions of both Municus and Dragon would improve upon these versions infinitely. So, if you're looking just for a cool-looking Bakugan for your collection, then I'd say, yeah, this or Dragon can definitely be some nice Bakugan to add to your collection. However, if you're just a BakuTech collector, or if you're only planning to pick up a few BakuTech for your collection, I definitely would recommend you just pay a higher price for what will be a better Bakugan in general. Either way, guys, thank you so much for watching. Tune in next week for BakuTech Recap, and we're going to be taking a look at some other really cool designs. I'm the Detective, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.